All right, we're back and at it. Valentine's Day, 10 minutes until the end of Valentine's Day. So, okay, let's just knock out these last ones while it's still technically Valentine's Day because I love you. All right, British Steel, Judas Priest, Breaking the Law, Living After Midnight. This is a fucking godsend of an album. Perfect album to start off the Valentine's Day podcast. I love this album. In fact, it might be the next vinyl record I buy at full price. The unopened original pressing S tier. Yes, S tier. Just to be in the spirit of things. Okay, let's go back to this one that we covered right before. Put this in B. It's a fun album. It's a little goofy, but it's a funny, charming album. I wouldn't even call it goofy. It's a little awkward, but it's charming awkward. So I'll give it a B. Um, Magic, Red Hot Chili Peppers. Okay, Rolling Stones. They all go in F. I haven't had one F album yet. What is this shit? Like the greatest hits? The Rolling Stones. The Toilet album? What is this really? Beggar's Banquet, that's what it is. Yeah, another provocative Rolling Stones cover. Yeah, I'm not crazy about this. What? Sympathy for the Devil, Street Fighting Man, Prodigal Son, No Expectations, Stray Cat Blues, Factory Girl, Dear Doctor, Salt of the Earth, Parachute Woman. Yeah, it's got some provocative song titles. These rebels, these provocateur rebels, I just don't like the music. Couldn't see. C for sliding and C for standard. It's standard. Oh, this is Idlewild. Oh, this is Allman Brothers. I recognize this, even though I can't see it because the colors are inverted. Okay. I think it's Idlewild. Uh, Fillmore East. It's a live album. This is like kind of like the definitive live album from the early 70s. Um, New York, Fillmore, Bill Graham, Whipping Post, You Don't Love Me, In Memory of Elizabeth Reed. Okay, this is A. Yeah, it's A. I don't really like the some of the put in B. Why? Because I think the music lacks definition, despite being a hell of an impressive long-winded jam session. Punchy, edgy, whatever, streetwise, rebellious, soulful. It's got it all, but it just doesn't combine enough for me into a cohesive experience so much. It's a little vague. I love Ruminations on Love. Allman Brothers has a problem with that, especially earlier on, even with their amazing ballads and instrumental pieces and so on. Okay, Def Leppard. I'll do with the Bowie. Here, I'm gonna pause for like a minute, and then I'm gonna pause for a second to get some water. Okay. Yeah, that Jordan Peterson video is sort of interesting because it's Sam Cedar's take, and Sam Cedar is rather negative about most people like Jordan Peterson, which is makes sense. I think Sam Cedar's kind of he's like a telecaster, right? Televisor. I mean, he's like no one cares what Sam Cedar thinks. But then again, only people only care what Jordan Peterson thinks because he's sort of deranged, and that's at least interesting. Let's figure out this Def Leppard album. Oh, Aladdin Sings, right? Oh, pretty sure these this is like a C album. It's got a great cover. There's no way I would have raked the coals, scoured the earth, stumbling and fitting over the next David Bowie song for years without you know yeah hearing about the songs on this particular album. And they just sort of have it. The Genie, right? That's okay. And I'll admit one of them looks intriguing. Um, but Drive-In Saturday, but for reasons that are like secondary to my interest in music here. Principally, I think it's a C album. But that puts it standard. Yeah, a low standard. Okay, next, just to keep it interesting, we can do um, Def Leppard to get it out of the way. Hysteria. Yeah, Hysteria is pretty good. Yeah, this album's like A. This is an A album. I mean, maybe an A minus or a B plus. It's got Love Bites, Pour Some Sugar on Me, and Hysteria, Animal, Armageddon, Hit, or whatever. Def Leppard is a powerhouse. They know how to fight, dude. Yeah, it's um, they're Jungle Cat, right? Jungle Cat. Need I say more? Okay, we're gonna do Abbey Road. Try to knock it out of the park. Abbey Road has Octopus's Garden, something. Here Comes the Sun, Come Together. Okay, that's probably the best Beatles album on this list. Okay, I'll give it an A. Might be the best Beatles album altogether. Um, Definitely the most iconic logo. So maybe the icons are what set the pace. Okay, next up, another iconic one. Not nearly as iconic, but definitely humorous. Is Yes, Roundabout. Personnel. Yeah, R.I.P. Chris Squire. Not enough love is given to those bassists that write all the song lyrics. I mean, they kind of make or break the band, if you ask me. Sometimes the guitarist is like superfluous. What you really need is a good songwriter. You know. I should write more songs of my own. Then I wouldn't have to be ranking these albums. I could be making them. Okay. Um, by the way, you don't. I forgot. I tend to forget because I don't like to dwell. But when in the process of making these kinds of videos, so about music, pop music, I've noticed there's so many websites dedicated to some aspect or another of like, archiving musical opinions or musical factoids or musical sort of like chronology. And it's like, gosh, like how many websites on the how much databases are there just dedicated to like, music information? Really shows you how much people care about this kind of stuff. And a lot of this stuff is fucking cheese, but people are just, they're head over heels for it. Probably some people love music more than they love people. Let's be honest. Some people love music more than they love themselves. Let's be real. I don't know if there's any insight into me saying this, but I just felt like I should express it because what else is there to do with a fly by night platform like this? Late night podcasts. No longer Valentine's Day, by the way. 22 minutes past Valentine's Day. And no, I did not have a crappy Valentine's Day. It seems like I did because I'm doing a podcast at 12:22 a.m. But I actually had a quite good Valentine's Day. Multiple love interests expressed towards me and back again, right? So, but I am running out of steam on this fucking tier ranking stuff because I don't really have the you know the scheduling smarts to like make it as pithy as I'm expected to. The self organization capability or whatever, the executive functioning skills, as a sub variety of what I just said, but even more specified. Okay, I'm definitely rambling. Roundabout, fragile. Oh, okay, that's right. The album's not called Roundabout. The album's called Fragile. Um, South Side of the Sky. Eh, yeah, I'm not crazy about this album. This album's sort of overblown. Um, but I think it has more listening value than that Boston album or that Meatloaf album or the Tom Petty or the Pyromania or the Bruce, AC/DC, ZZ Top, all that D schmear, the whole D schmear. Yeah, Roundabout is at least standard. It's like Aladdin Sane. It's like, problem is that yes is like it's just never amazing, but they're always good enough. Good enough not to ignore, but never amazing. It's just I don't know. It's like the nature of their strategy, their artistic strategy, vision. I wouldn't call it a vision, but I'm sure they would because you can see how fucking pretentious they are with their F, bullshit, bloated planet art. I forget who did the album artwork for Fragile, but I hope he got paid a lot because that seems like pretty good art for how lame the album actually is. Anyway, both Rush and Yes are like low key, just like lame nerd bands with like are kind of annoying. Um, Facts, right? Okay, Metallica, Master of Puppets. I'm just doing this in any fucking order. Um, yeah, this album's also C. It's funny. It's standard. It's not great. You know, it fills the catalog, but it's not. It's not awesome. Okay, let's do Toys in the Attic by Aerosmith. Jeez. I like how when you look up the first preview of like the Wikipedia article, when you look these things up, they always tell you the producer for the album, like as if it was like the most urgent bit of information you needed to know aside from the title. Um, Sweet Emotion, Walk This Way, Toys in the Attic, You See Me Crying. Yeah, this is a good album. This is a good album. I'll give it a B. Unfortunately, it might just be the best Aerosmith album. So if the best Aerosmith album is like a B, that's not, you know, very endearing. Is it? It's rather disappointing. Very sort of sad. But they're Aerosmith. Aerosmith is like what people who only listen to rap think rock music is like all about. And that's why Aerosmith sort of has like this, like a bit of like a negative prestige, despite really being kind of a trendsetter in a couple of ways. I mean, I guess they're like Kiss. They're sort of blockbuster rock. They're like saturated and overblown, and they don't really scratch any itch in the culture. But they just kind of like it's like McDonald's. It's commodified and readily available, and because of that, they make ass loads of money. I'm sure they all have mega yachts at this point. Fleet. The mega yachts is what I meant to say. Yeah, I don't have to tell you that Aerosmith has yachts, right? Uh, okay, what's up next? Slim Pickings, kind of. Let's see this Genesis one. Is this the live album? I think it's the live album. Honestly, Genesis has a lot of. Genesis is kind of an overlooked band nowadays. They were a serious. Genesis was a serious force back in the '70s, and they had a good resurgence in the '80s. It was like, even by like modern standards, which are pretty you know stringent and uptight and nauseating. Genesis still like keeps up production wise, especially its the '80s work material. Where um, and they also made a lot of albums. Like they're kind of neglected as even as like an obscure tour de force. I mean, I think recognizing it as like an obscure band is easy, but recognizing it as a tour de force that's also obscure is not so easy. And it's sad that they don't have the reputation that maybe they really deserve, or just the reputation that reflects the reality of what they were. Okay, this is not an album I'm familiar with. It's the Jungle Prince by his Iron Maiden album. These are the two albums I really need to check out later. His Queensryche is kind of there. I'll put Queensryche in fucking E. There's no way it's good. Um, let's look at the Doors. I apologize again for radio silence. I am. Uh, this is the date. I'm just receiving a lot of communications. Poor coordination on my part. Um, the Doors had an incredible debut album. Um, really, the Doors are kind of an enigma because their debut album blew them out of the water, but it didn't. They couldn't follow up to it. I guess there are other bands like that, but in terms of like the scale of how explosive they were, there's not a band out there that really compares. They just never followed up. And Jim Morrison died, some years later, but he definitely ended possibility for more Doors music. But on this album, you have uh, Light My Fire, The End, Break On Through, The Crystal Shift. These are some of my favorite songs ever. Yeah, and there's other stuff worth mentioning, but those four tunes are like what what really define um, the Doors' catalog, but they also what define sort of that '60s psychedelic blues, American, Californian, and I love the geographical awareness that the Doors have. Like it almost feels like they know they're in this like high plains in the LA basin. Like they know that the western United States is like this bizarre Martian landscape that they just are powering through, and they're having these eclectic visions in the desert in the heat of the night, and as they travel from bar to bar and concert hall to concert hall, and they explore the vast wasteland that is this disjointed Americana. I really think the Doors they understand like the country, especially the western part of the United States, southwestern. I mean, maybe not northwestern, let's be real, but southwestern. I think they really that quadrant. They understand it, and I think that's just kind of. There's not a lot of other bands like that. Maybe Van Halen. I think is the only other band that gets there. It's just like very classic LA aesthetic and self-awareness that not every artist really can touches upon anymore. And if they did, it was trend setting, but it wouldn't necessarily be replicable. But we remember they were memorialized for it too. So it's not like we're unaware that they did it. It's just not often that we get to sit down and put it into words all nicely like this. I think it's very nice to have a platform where we can admire the principle and unique accomplishments of a band like the Doors or a band like Van Halen, which really set the pace for um, Los Angeles music and Los Angeles sound and Los Angeles perspective and place in the world setting. They really gave it helped. They helped usher in a new identity for Los Angeles after the golden age of Hollywood ended. The golden age of you know music in Hollywood emerged. Okay. Okay. Uh, Next album is AC Megadeth. Um, okay, I can't see like two of these. I think this one of these is a Blue Oyster Cult album, so that'll be easy. It'll be next. It's disappointing that there's like one Blue Oyster Cult album on here. Although I shouldn't be surprised, right? 15 studio albums. But you know what? That might be The Who. That might be Quadrophenia. Yeah, it's Quadrophenia by The Who. This album kind of stinky. I'm gonna give it a C. It's just like a double album with like a shit ton of filler. It's a little bit like Fleetwood Mac's Tusk. It's like sort of autistic sounding, and like it never really hits the mark. Quadrophenia gets a C. Technique. Okay, is okay. What's it? Radiohead. Okay, Computer. That one's a fun album. It's like the disintegration by The Cure, which was 1989. Okay, Computer is like their version of that same you know theme, but it's like almost 8 years later, right? 96 or 97. Paranoid Android, Karma Police. So this is like old school Radiohead. Um, It's kind of sophisticated sci-fi, prog-ish. Um, um, Trap has all the trappings of the prog and sort of sci-fi horror, mood music, and alternative rock or indie rock, whatever. But I don't really, not really convinced. It's I'm gonna give it a C, just to be on the safe side. I don't think it's a D. But I'm not extremely impressed by the track list. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'll find that it's a little on the nose for a rock album. You know? Again, it seems dimly autistic, right? It's like so many of these latter day rock forays. Okay, the attempts made by the secondary and subsequent generations to outpace their forebears. Uh, Sex Pistols. Never mind the bollocks. Anarchy in the UK. 76, yeah. Well, this is pretty great. I mean, there's no denying that the Sex Pistols are kind of the bee's knees, right? And definitely not the Bee Gees, although they wrote, produced at the same time.
Um, they're like the Devil's Bee Gees, and they're probably the same level of quality, honestly. Both of them are sort of whatever bands that have flash appeal and then are somehow, instantly forgotten, uh, in the mind's eye at least. I'll give it a B. It's just not the best music, but it's a little bit like like one it's I mean maybe an A. I don't know. B plus. B plus because it's just I think the B side is more arrived. And the A side's a little undercooked. Okay. Megadeth, Iron Maiden. Yeah, Iron Maiden is a funny one because their albums are like all the same kind of. But if you actually give it, the whole work through, um, there's quite a bit of variation between their, thematically identical songs. The subtleties vary quite a bit. But Iron Maiden really is a fun band more than anything. Fun metal band, which is unusual, and it's a world unto itself, which is pretty awesome. I mean, they're like an '80s Grateful Dead or whatever, if that makes any sense, but maybe it doesn't. Okay, let's see this. The number of the beast, 82. Um, yeah, what I would give to be able to grown up during the heyday of this record, it's an A, without a flinch, full blown A. Hallowed be thy name, the number of the beast, run to the hills. Um, for me, those are what round out the better parts of this album. There's some other songs that are kind of you know, at a second rate to the ones I just mentioned, but they're serviceable. Still, I think those three songs. I mean, you also have Gangland, 22, Acacia Avenue, The Prisoner, Children of the Damned, and Invaders. But I think that you know, with some variation in taste allowed, I think "Hallowed Be Thy Name," "The Number of the Beast," and "Run to the Hills" are like the foremost highlights of this album. With maybe one or two swapped in, like Invaders or something. But pound for pound, those three songs round it out for me, and they firmly place it in A. And you could kind of change out the other ones. I still think it would be A, unless you really got some bad Iron Maiden tunes that from recent albums that didn't take off so well. By the way, their latest album with all the samurai, you know, um, topics, it's pretty cool. Um, yeah, they really know how to make. They really know how to keep the ship afloat, and they can pump out albums that are, aesthetically consistent and musically consistent, uh, in a manner that's sort of like scary. Like they're really good at it. But while they might be consistent, like in terms of like the content, their music, and they have the whole overall horror metal aesthetic. I don't think they really have like the vitality they used to have, and that shows. So that there's a je ne sais quoi or whatever that is not in their music as much anymore. And it's just because the band is has less to prove. They're sort of they're not running on empty or by any means, but it's all momentum now for them. Um, just like Ozzy, and look what happened to him. He fucking retired, and I can't even blame him. He had every possible excuse. Seems like besides literally going to prison. Um, okay, well, let's stay on track. Let's go to Megadeth. This album is like it's like taking notes off of Peace Sells. Yeah, who's buying? It's just kind of like tweaker music a little bit. I don't know where to put it. I think it's about the same as OK Computer or the Dire Straits or the Beggar's Banquet, Aladdin Sane. It's like it's like something you should listen to, but you just don't really ever have the time somehow. It's like there's no compelling reason to listen to it other than to just sort of you know having no cringe. It's not it's just not cringy enough to ignore. Like I said, but it's standard, just you know like the low end of standard. Ramones. I do like the Ramones. Oh, it's their debut too. There's something very romantic about the Ramones, which is like funny because they're not even like the oldest um, punk band, but they sort of just like they're like Metallica, I guess. They just sort of represent punk to the world in like a very immortal and widespread branded, uh, you know, unofficial like some just sort of ghost campaign where they've been like spread like worldwide as like the image of punk and like the immortalization of punk. Even though I think most people who like punk don't think of the Ramones as very, pertinent to, whatever the genre has become or whatever the genre is in people's heads. I don't think the Ramones is like really representing it that much. But they just, to the teenager who doesn't know anything about punk rock, the Ramones is kind of like it's kind of like the fucking synonym for it. Um, I guess the Sex Pistols is probably the only other band that, even the Clash is a little too sleek for that qualification. Although I guess for a certain caliber of, upper crust, audiophile, the Clash might be, you know, like the third leg in the trinity of, you know, representative classic punk bands. Okay, this album, the debut self-titled eponymous Ramones album. It's got it's got one of my there's something so endearing about these guys. They're just like idiots. But it makes you feel young, just like thinking about it. Um, Blitzkrieg Bob. It's the first song on their first album, and it was written very unusually by Tommy Ramone, the drummer, who also wrote "I Want to Be Your Boyfriend," which is another single I think from this. It was their second single. What's this? This album's like this album's cool. I'll give it a B. It's yet. I'll give it a B. Okay. I mean they're not they're a great band, but they're like a kind of a loser band too. But sometimes the loser aesthetic is kind of fills the void more than the winner aesthetic does. So it's a little bit arbitrary and relative. Okay. Okay, I can barely see any of these. This Bon Jovi. Well, we all know where that's going. Okay, this is the slippery when wet. Oh, man. Oh, man. Okay, I'm about to put this in F. Okay, we all know where that's going, right? F. I mean, to be fair, the B side is like impressive. It's got Living on a Prayer, Wanted Dead or Alive, You Give Love a Bad Name. Um, all right, well, that B side alone is like, it's not F tier. Let's be honest. It's a C. It's good music, but it's good music done in bad taste, and only the B side is like significant. Um, I'll listen to it, but I don't know. I guess it's probably a B. I mean, literally, it's a B for Bon. B for Bon Jovi. I think like it's probably like it's probably not worse than the Ramones album. Just sort of stupid. I guess the Ramones album is also stupid, but that's like that's more self-aware. So I guess it goes down to C because it's not as doesn't have the self-awareness that the Ramones have. Or maybe I'm giving the Ramones too much credit, but I think even if they weren't self-aware, it would be like it's like they're retarded, which is like makes the stupidity like become self-aware even if it isn't. Sort of like transmogrifies it. Bon Jovi's not like retarded enough to have that unusual effect. Okay, next up. Okay, this is another Aerosmith. Dude, I'm almost done. This is Exile Main Street, finally. Another Stones album, something decent. Jeez, don't care for Aerosmith. Um, yeah, I think this is one of the stronger um, Stones albums. But I don't have time to like go do a blow by blow, so I'm just gonna give it a B. It's nothing incredible, but it's like a double album, I think. Is it a double? It's sort of like it seems a little bit like it's a '70s album, but it's like one of their earlier '70s album. It's a follow up to Sticky Fingers. Yeah, it's a little bit of like a catch all, and it's sort of pointless, but it's a long album, so even the pointlessness kind of dissipates because you just get sort of mired in it like a fucking bog, quicksand, swamp, peaty bog. Okay, now we're gonna do Let There Be Rock AC/DC. This is kind of a cool album, but it's kind of like a one note. Not my favorite AC/DC track list. Uh, that tour that they were on should wouldn't have been that bad to miss. You know what I mean? 1977. It's a good year for rock, but not necessarily for AC/DC. Let There Be Rock, man. It's such a stupid fucking pretentious song, pretending to be God or whatever. It's like, okay, Jack Black, go make another movie, you fucking cornball. Anyway, sorry, I'm just like getting into the hate. Such a hater tonight. I'm just tired. I gotta do laundry still. It's like 1 in the morning. Rocks. Oh, this is I like this one. This one's kind of fun. Back in the saddle. Rats in the cellar. Uh, I think the combination. This might be my favorite Aerosmith album. Could it be? Okay. I think that's all I'm gonna do. So I don't know what this one is. I'm not gonna do any live albums. Most of these I can't recognize. This is the Beatles. That's the White Album. Okay, do the White Album. That'll be the last one. Really need to post this video. It's been too long. Glass Onion, back in the USSR. Helter Skelter. Blackbird. Oh, my guitar gently weeps. Okay, this is an S. It's a fucking S. And I'm not a Beatles fanboy. It's a double album. It's like Year Blues, Revolution. I ain't no deal with that shit. What a good album. Jeez, I'm like coming rope in my pants, dude. It's 1968, November 22nd. My friend's birthday is that. That's one of my best friend's birthdays. So that tells me that he would like this album. In fact, I've talked to him about this album before. I don't know if he knew it was released on his birthday, though. It just tells you everything, I guess. Whew, it's a fucking killer album. It's a White Album. Funny name. Like, what does it even mean? It sounds like it's racial, but the only reason I'm saying that is because it's the 60s and the civil rights movement. But that was in America. But maybe even in Britain at the time, they knew how consequential that would be. You just like, smell it. All right, well, I'm going to end because, we did the best for last and all these other ones. I either can't see them or they're a live album that is disqualified, or it's an album that I have not listened to and I don't want to pretend like I have, or or it's an album that's like I think is no, it's not. None of these albums or anything I think is beneath me. So yeah, I give it a good shot. Just Queen. Okay, I'll do the Queen album. Yeah, Night at the Opera. Oh, dude, that's another. Jeez. Okay. Dude, that one's like a. It's a. And Queen is one of those. It's like even as a kid, I thought it was sort of campy and kitschy and maudlin and overwrought. It's like somewhat irrelevant, and even as like a kid, you could just. So I'm gonna go with my gut instinct that I've had since I was a child. But it's sort of all kind of like mid, you know. It's like amped up mid. Um, but B is pretty good. I mean, I don't think that they have any like D albums necessarily. I think they're very like they're a strong act. Overall throughout their many phases of a career, a consistently strong act. Anyway, I thought the White Album would be the last one, but it was A Night at the Opera of all things. Okay, which is I guess it's kind of it's a good end note for this. All right, so without any further ado, in 50 minutes, I'm gonna have to splice this into the other one and do a little bit of finagling in the editing to get rid of dead air. Um, okay, the last thing I'll do is I'll try to put something in F. Just to say I put something in F tier. I was fairly positive. Most things are not. I mean, they're all classics for a reason. But D, almost nothing's in D. I guess I should have to take a stance. All right, I really don't like the sound quality in the overall production, so I'll put this in E. Um, Purple Rain I'll give D because I think it's nauseating, just like Boston's debut. Um, Sabotage. Sabotage is a bullshit album. I'll give it a C. It's got like one. It's just like a throwaway. It's like an album. It's like it's I have it's not amazing. Highway 61 Revisited? Does that really B? I think it's a C, honestly. C. Yeah, B. Yeah, Revolver. What's on Revolver? So, I'm supposed to know all the minutiae of this. I think Rubber Soul might be better, but that's not on here. Here, there, and everywhere. Me, Tomorrow Never Knows. Yellow Submarine. Yeah, it's a little soupy. Yeah. Yeah. Dainty and sing-songy, but soupy nonetheless. Give it a C. Here, There, and Everywhere is a nice song. It's very sweet. Birdie. Okay, I'll give it a B. I think it's got charm in funny places. Okay. Yeah, yeah, okay. Moving Pictures. It's kind of a cool album cover. Moving Pictures, dude. It sounds good. Yeah, I mean, it's probably like an A. I'm actually gonna demote it to B. Yeah, it's not better than Disarray Gears by Cream, right? Hunky Dory. I think Hunky Dory is probably like an A. No. Oh, this Layla album is an S. I don't know why. It's like an S. Such a remarkable album. Beautiful. Truly beautiful album. Hunky Dory's an A. Live at the Budokan. It's pretty cool. What about Destroyer? I don't know if Destroyer is an A. Yeah, Just Kisses. It could be. It could be. Jeez. So many ways to reevaluate this. Let It Bleed. Okay, Let It Bleed is like a C. Fucking do not like Let It Bleed. Great album cover. Terrible selection. Um,
Okay. Rumors. Okay, I'll take rumors out of A. Rumors out of B. I'll take Ozzy Osbourne. Put B. I just think it's a little Hotel California. Put B. Yeah, just in case you didn't think I could do it, I rearranged everything. So it changed at the end. It changed at the end. It changed at the end. It changes at the end. It changes at the end. Okay. Doors goes back down to A. It changes even more at the end. It's kind of, yeah. And I'm sure I could do this tomorrow in the afternoon, and I would have a whole, and I would change it even more. There's no limit to how much neuroticism can go into these reevaluations. Anyway, it's 57 minutes in the part two. I have yet to splice all the video footage together and resuscitate it all into a Frankenstein monster of a podcast. Too many, slips and bumps, slips and bips, whatever the phraseology is. Dude, I'm gonna enjoy listening to some of these albums. They're all very, very good. I mean, not that I have to do any publicity stunts, but I don't have the platform for it. But I would say that any one of these albums is cool and worthy of your time. And emotional roller coaster commitment. Buy the ticket, ride the train. Guns ablazing. Anything F? Anything F? Yeah, I think Let It Bleed is F. It's such a disappointing album because the album cover is like perfect. So disappointing. Some of the Rolling Stones have like really, really hit or miss albums. Just the nature of the way they uh, rehearsed or wrote and rehearsed and recorded. I don't know. Okay, I'm gonna put this in D. I put this in D. Put this in F because it's obnoxious. All right, and I'll end there. So, obviously, I'm joking a little, but I still think that it's like a fair assessment. They're all classic albums. Some are F tier classic albums, and some are S tier classic albums. Good night and good fucking luck. And I'm gonna wait until it gets to the 1 minute mark, but try not to say too much because I know I've talked a lot to you, and you deserve better than that. You deserve better than hearing me prattle on my obtuse palaver about pop cultural topics that are dated and stupid and unworthy of your time. If for some strange and incalculable reason you've devoted your time to me this last hour, and if you listen to the part one, which you probably will because I'll splice both of these videos together, so it'll only be one seamless segment anyway, then you've done something very unusual and saintly and brave and questionable, but admirable all the same. So yeah, I'll leave it there. Good night. Good fucking luck. And happy Valentine's Day. I know it's like an hour and 11 minutes past the deadline, but Valentine's Day was fun for me, and I'm hoping it was fun for you in the year 2023. Deuces.